Hello, everybody. Welcome to Chef on a Mission Radio. I am Chef Marcus Guiliano, and I am your Chef on a Mission. Today's mission, we're going to talk about speaking up, making a difference, making a change, how that starts, how it started in my career, and how it still works. So, going to be exciting today because we can all make change. Before we jump into that, though, this program is brought to you by my restaurant, Aroma Time Bistro, THYME Bistro, BISTRO, Aroma, first word AROMA, Aroma Time Bistro, located in Ellenville, New York. We're 90 miles north of New York City in the beautiful Hudson Valley. We've been serving farm to table cuisine since 2003 here. And we have a lot of fun with the food, with the wine, with the booze, with everything here. We truly are passionate about what we do and have a lot of fun doing it. So check us out, aromatimebistro.com. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook. And also brought to you by VIPWineryVacations.com, VIP Winery Vacations. Because we love wine and we know a lot of people in the wine region, we bring you to our friends' wineries in Italy, New York, and now Baja California, which is Mexico, in the Valle de Guadalupe region. There's an amazing wine region. So check out VIPWineryVacations.com for our upcoming tour dates, scheduled tour dates. We have some stuff coming up in New York and in Valle de Guadalupe in Mexico. Hopefully soon start returning to Italy. Hopefully soon. We'll see what happens with travel and restrictions. All right. Why speaking up is so important. So when I was a young chef, 24 years old, I was an executive chef at a country club at 24 years old. And one of the members came up to me, and her husband was the past president. I remember Jane Denzinger. She came up to me and she goes, "Marcus, can you get us hormone-free, antibiotic-free beef here?" And I'm like, I didn't know what to say, right? I was like, okay, sort of pretended I knew what I was talking about. And then all of a sudden I was like, man, what's she talking about? What do you mean antibiotic-free and hormone-free beef? And this is back in 1998, when this wasn't mainstream at all. It wasn't mainstream, not even in progressive states where they had farm to table movements and things like that. I mean, it was not something you went into a regular grocery store and was like, oh, we have grass-fed, organic, hormone-free beef, antibiotic-free beef, and it's a sustainability rating, and that sustainability rating. So I scrambled and I started looking for documentation. I found some articles, and this is before you could just pull out your phone and start searching away. And it's hard to believe that was only like 24 years ago, right? 23 years ago, 25 years ago. It's hard to believe that's how little ago that was. And you couldn't pull your phone out and start doing that. So I got some documentation. I read some articles, and I was like, oh, wow, what's going on in our beef supply? What's going on? This is atrocious. As a young chef, I was like, I want to make a change. I want to make a difference. And by that very one person saying something to me, speaking up, it totally changed my course on how I cook food and my career and my outlook. Totally changed my whole career. You never know the one conversation you have with somebody that will change something. And you look at what I've done over the last 20 some years since that, in Colorado, becoming part of the Chefs Collaborative and organizing all the farmers out there. And I mean, Colorado Department of Agriculture called me the Willie Nelson of Colorado, because I did all these farm events and raised a lot of money for farmers and promoted them and got them all together and on the same page with chefs. So one simple conversation sparked something in me that changed the way I was going to cook in the future. So if you're a consumer, you never know. We're all consumers, right? You never know the one conversation you have with somebody at the right time can totally change. I mean, from what I've done with out serving farm salmon and only being committed to, I became very strict on all this and only serving real food, was probably far more than Mrs. Denzinger bargained for when she mentioned that to me, far more than she was hoping out of the conversation. So she really honestly altered my career. Now, last week, I had a chocolate lady call me, and she was trying to sell us chocolates, and she was like, do all these events at wineries, and my chocolates are this, and this, and oh yeah. And I said, well, where are they sourced from? Oh, they're fair trade, they're all this. Or she just rattled off what they are, right? All these high accolades of sustainability and fair labor. And because chocolate is one of the worst industries for child labor, slave labor, downright slave labor. I mean, chocolate and sugar go hand in hand, and they are not good situations at all. They're anything coming out of Africa. And I know all these companies, these big companies, Calabo and all these companies saying, oh, we don't support child labor and this, that. They don't support child labor. So Barry Calabo doesn't support child labor because they own the factory where they're processing it, but they're not on the farms. They don't own the fields. These come from all small farmers in Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana and all that area of Africa, where all it is farms with children. But by the time it gets to the plant in the big cities, it's a totally different situation. So yeah, so Calabo might own the plant, the facility where they're processing it at, where they're packaging it at, right? And they're building schools, and they're not hiring kids, but the chocolate's been raised by kids, by 10-year-old boys, and they're not going to school, and they're out there in dangerous situations. And because the government or the fair or the open market price on chocolate is just so low that they can't afford to pay labor. So they get these young boys there. They're trafficked in, they're bribed in, they're sold in, however they can get there. They're barely paid. They're indentured servants. And then you have people, companies like Calabo, just pretending like, oh, like we've done our part and our chocolate's great, when it's not great. It's not. So, and I've called Calabo out on this, and other companies that do this, and their reps at these shows and everything, and they can't answer me because they know I'm right. They don't have full control of the chocolate. There are some other brands that are better in general because they're sourcing from different regions. Like if you source something from South America has, believe it or not, much more fair labor than Africa. All right, it's fairer labor. It might not be fair labor, but it's better paying labor. It's less, less indentured servants on these plantations doing chocolate. So South American chocolate is far better, but African chocolate is like 75%, 80% of what's on the market. It's just Africa produces it very cheaply. And all the companies like Hershey's and they all Nestle's, they all have their hands in chocolate coming out of Africa because of its very, very cheap price. So the lady says to me, oh, my chocolates, fair trade, this and that. And I said, oh, okay. And most people would have stopped at that point. Even Jamie said, well, I would have stopped. I wouldn't have asked her. I just would have taken her word for it, right? I'm just taking her word for it. Me, I know that people deceive. They deceive on purpose because they know. Now, this lady knows. She knows that all that stuff is bad in chocolate. Is she doing this? I don't want to say maliciously, but is she doing it, in a very in a bad way? I just honestly don't think she really paid attention, and she honestly knew, but she should. It's her responsibility. It's totally her responsibility before she starts doing this. I don't know how long she's been doing this. I have no idea how long, these people do this. And I've called out a lot of people, Wolfgang Puck, Tom Colicchio, because they're not serving what they said they were serving. Who knows how long Tom Colicchio was doing it until somebody said something to me, and I started pressuring them for months and calling and finally breaking his fraud on YouTube and Twitter until something actually changed. So some people know what they're doing. Some people just take it for granted that, hey, the fish came from the ocean. Why wouldn't it be wild? The salmon came from an ocean, from a bay. Of course it's wild. But then you have companies that, like the Faroe Islands, that's saying farmed in the wild, and which is very confusing for chefs. Farmed in the wild. No, it is farmed in the ocean, in a bay, in an open net pen that is filled with feces and all kinds of other crap and diseases and lice, and it has 10 fish per 100 die because of the filthy conditions. That's what the reality of what there is. But they do their marketing and say, oh, raised in the wild, and take pictures of above the water and all this kind of stuff, and how the mountains are back there and everything. So she says to me, back to the chocolate lady, she goes, oh yeah, all this and this. And so I say, well, what brand are you using? Because now I want to know what brand she's using, right? Well, what brand are you using? She tells me the brand. I type it in. I'm on the computer, and I'm looking at this website that says nothing about fair trade, nothing whatsoever about organic, nothing about this, nothing. And I'm like, So we hang up the phone with her, and then I call the company, and of course you have to get in a queue and you have to leave your name, and it turns out that they still haven't called me back a week later. So we get a message from her. After doing more research, I realized that chocolate is not really fair trade or whatever. I'm actually willing to change. I'm willing to change the way I'm sourcing chocolate, because I gave her a couple of resources for chocolate. She goes, I'm willing to change the way I'm sourcing my chocolate. Would you still be interested in our product? And of course, yes, I am interested in your product, and I will taste your product. And especially if you are if you're going to make that change, that's amazing. Let's do that. I'll support you. Get the right chocolate in there. Get the right chocolate in there, and do the right thing. So, folks, this is why you speak up. This is why you say something. If more people would have said to her at the farmers markets or wherever she was selling her stuff, or at the tastings, is this fair trade? Oh, what's the brand? That would have sparked her to look further into it. So I just sparked I sparked something in her at the right time to say, you know what? I could be buying better chocolate, and this really isn't, what I thought it was. And I'm willing to admit that, hey, I can be doing better, and I will do better. So really awesome when you speak up and people like actually listen. But we as consumers have power. We vote with our wallets. And that's what happens. One person started the fight against MSG and baby food. That one person, who's an author back there on my shelf right there, that one person in the 70s said, why is MSG in baby food? And he started a campaign to get MSG out of baby food. It starts with one person who has a conviction about something to make change. So my conviction is real food. And if you're going to be a salesperson walking into my restaurant or calling me and trying to sell me something, I'm going to ask you to prove that it's real food, that it is trustworthy, that it is sustainable, that it is doing the right thing, that it is organic, whatever it is. I'm going to ask you more questions. And by just doing that, one thing makes a difference. If this lady changes the way she sources chocolate, and she's a small chocolatier right here in the area, she's from downstate, but she's probably busy. She probably sells a lot. She probably buys a lot of chocolate, with all the events she does and the farmers markets and the retail she does. She probably sells a lot of chocolate. So by having that one conversation can totally change her trajectory now on how she sources chocolate. And then what can happen from there is she can have the same conviction that I do, and now start telling her customers and clients what she sources and how proud she is of it and the differences in chocolate. And she can go on to educate even more people. This is how this happens, folks. It's just a domino effect of educating people, awakening people up, making people aware, and offering them the better choices. That's honestly how it happens, and that's how it happened with me. One person said one thing, opened up my mind. That one thing then led me to join the Chefs Collaborative for real food. I was then at a Chefs Collaborative conference a couple years after that. After Jane Denzinger mentioned about the beef. And by 1999, I was in a conference in New York, sitting next to Henry Lovejoy from EcoFish, the founder of EcoFish, which was a 100% sustainably based seafood company. Nothing ever existed like that before for chefs. Sat next to him for dinner and had an amazing conversation. And from that point on, no farm salmon. The shrimp I've been very, very, very particular on. Every seafood item we brought in that I've served from that point on, I've been very, very meticulous and very, very high standards on what I bring in from that one conversation. But it took one conversation to get me to that conversation. So that's why I'm over the domino effect. I would have never joined the Chefs Collaborative. I wouldn't have had that conversation, because I started now working with chefs and farmers. That led me to chefs that were like, oh, join this great organization that supports more farmers and supports real food. And I mean, in 1999, 2000, I would go to the Cherry Creek Farmers Market in Denver and go out there and ask people to sign a petition to label genetically modified foods. This is back in 2000, folks. This is 22 years ago. We've been dealing with genetically modified foods for over 30 years now. GMOs, lab created food, where they start splicing genes and introducing toxins into fruits and vegetables because they want to repel insects off of them. This has been going on longer than we think. And I would go to the farmers market and ask for people to sign this petition. And back in 2000, not many people knew about GMOs. And these are people that are shopping in a green organic market. And they're like, what are GMOs, this and that? But we were out there educating people and having conversations with people. And some people had no idea what about, and that was no idea what a GMO was but they knew they should be buying organic. So we were having the first conversations with a lot of these people and hopefully changing their trajectory on what real food is and how they should be eating. And not long after that, Boulder County banned planting GMOs. A very progressive agricultural community in Colorado, Boulder County, banned planting GMOs not long after that, a year, 2-3 years after, whatever, as a way for them to preserve their land and their environment. So you just never know the one person you talk to. So don't be afraid to speak up. Go out, have that one conversation, ask that question, tell a restaurant owner, why don't you have wild salmon? Why are you serving toxic farm salmon? Or if they are serving the real deal on anything, thank them for using a farm. Thank them for supporting a real food system. Thank them and let them know that it's appreciated, because a lot of times, especially right now, chefs and restaurants are trying to save money left and right because inflation, everything is going up like crazy. So when you thank a restaurant for spending a little extra money and sourcing local, it goes a long way. And let them know that you're willing to pay the price for real food, a real food system, local food, real food. Let them know. The restaurant will really appreciate that, because let me tell you something, a lot of restaurants get second doubts and they're like, how can I save money? How can I, and it's tough. It's really, really tough. So that's the story with that, folks. Speak up, say something, change happens one step at a time. So, and in the meantime, follow us at Aroma Time Bistro on Instagram, on Facebook, and of course, follow VIP Winery Vacations for all kinds of wine travel. All the wineries that we travel to are small family-run operations where they support sustainable agriculture. They are totally into preserving their land, the land they live on, because they're not stupid to spray massive chemicals and ruin the land. And a lot of them are growing their own grapes as opposed to buying grapes. A lot of wineries do buy grapes, but when you live on the land and those are your grapes, your land, you're really much more conscious of what you're putting into the land, because you understand, hey, this land has been in my family for 5 generations, 6 generations, 7 generations, 8 generations. Why would I ruin the land now? So those are the type of wineries that we visit, and we take you and they roll the red carpet out for us. So VIP Winery Vacations, check us out there and come travel with us. Lifetime memories are not optional. Thanks for tuning in, folks. This is episode number 77, I believe, right? 77. Speak up. Everybody have a great rest of the day. We'll talk to you later.